This is the new Tesla Model Y Performance, and for some reason or the other, over the last 10 years of me doing the show, I have never driven a Tesla. So Thomas was busy today, so I took the opportunity to come and take a closer look. You're watching Autogefühl, I'm AJ. Join me as I discover this car and what it's all about. I've actually had the opportunity to drive the previous Model Y Performance yesterday to get to know it a little bit better, and I'm really happy to see how much of an advancement the new Model Y Performance is. Yes, of course, we can already see that this is heavily inspired by the design of the new Model Y, but in the previous Model Y Performance, they really didn't have the opportunity to design and give the Model Y Performance its own bespoke identity because of manufacturing scalability. But now they've really gone through the car front to back, inside and out, and tried to give it its own unique personality. So, talking about design, of course, you have this nice singular LED strip, matrix LED headlamps. I like this design much better than the previous Model Y. And it looks much more in line with, for example, the Cybertruck, and I think it looks really cool. But of course, being the new Performance, the bumpers are much more aerodynamic. They've been redesigned. This is also a bit longer, emphasizing the width. And of course, aerodynamics is such a key part to any EV. And for the new Y Performance, they have improved the aerodynamic capabilities even more. The Model Y Performance is 4.8 meters long, just about, and it weighs a little bit over 2,000 kilograms. In addition to better aerodynamics, the chassis has also been significantly improved now. It's a lot stiffer and there's adaptive suspension, and even the steering geometry has been improved. I also really like these 21-inch Arachnid 2.0 wheels. It's interesting to note that the front wheels are a little bit narrower than the rear wheels. So these are 255 section and those are 275 section. But overall, the side profile I think is more or less similar to the standard Model Y. But I do like the nice swooping lines, very Tesla, flush door handles. I would actually like the red color. I saw one earlier today at the press event. It looks really striking and goes really well with the performance ethos of this new Model Y Performance. I think the back of the Tesla Model Y Performance is where it looks the best. I love this new real carbon fiber spoiler, which of course increases the downforce. The central LED brake light strip over here casts this really nice, ominous red glow, cascading down over the Tesla badging. You also have the really cool Warp Speed performance badge right here, and a significantly redesigned lower bumper with a diffuser. This also is jutting out quite a bit more, so this is also where that length is coming from. And of course, a diffuser to further improve the aerodynamic capabilities. I have the Tesla app on my phone, so I can open the charging flap and we can talk some numbers. This has an 82 kilowatt hour gross battery pack with a dual motor all-wheel drive system with the new Performance 4DU system, with a combined output of 460 horsepower, supercharging capabilities of up to 250 kilowatts, and of course headline figures 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.5 seconds, 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.3 seconds, so 0.2 seconds faster than the previous generation. Top speed is still around 250 kilometers per hour, and the claimed range is 580 kilometers. But if you're driving that fast, I don't think you're gonna see such high numbers. We'll see what I get by the end of today's drive. Let's take a look inside the Frenk. It's about 40 centimeters tall. That's about 15 inches. And it's about, let's see, 77 centimeters wide, or about 30 inches across. But what does that really mean? Well, let's see if my cabin suitcase fits inside. Yeah, as you can see, it totally does, so very usable. All right, let's take a look inside the front door. Pretty easy to use flush door handles, to be honest. The door opens really wide, frameless windows with acoustic glass, soft touch materials, leatherette up here, real carbon fiber, and I like this ambient lighting. The previous Model Y Performance did not have that, and I think it's a good addition. The rest of it is pretty typical Tesla design with these switches and the door release latch, door release button, and some door pockets with nice felt lining. But what is quite new are these performance seats. So the side bolstering has been improved. Again, leatherette, which is nice, bright white color. And down here you see that, of course, you have the lumbar support adjustment and the back and the base, but also an under thigh support extender as well. First impressions are that it's actually quite spacious. I'm 5'8" or about 1.7 meters. I have plenty of headroom, also thanks to the glass roof, which is also, of course, treated for heat insulation and sound insulation. And because there is no instrument binnacle, there isn't even a head-up display, there's a lot of space in front of me, and it does make the cabin seem a lot more airy. There is a new 16-inch infotainment screen, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but I do like this real carbon fiber accent on the top, the ambient lighting, this nice textured material here. As always, you open the glove box by tapping on this button here. Nice and damped and felt lined, but to be honest, it's quite shallow and it's not very spacious, but at least there are more storage options here in the center of the center console. We'll get into that in a minute. But let's talk a little bit about the steering wheel. The shape, again, as a new Tesla driver, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I do like the contours better than the previous Model Y Performance I was driving yesterday. So I do like how there are these indentations for your thumbs to have it in this position, which I really like. They've brought back the indicator stalk, which was there in the previous Model Y Performance, but yeah, it's at least some haptic control that I appreciate. Buttons and rollers as usual with the Tesla system to control, of course, the autopilot and simple things like your volume and even the wiper washer. But overall, it's pretty interesting if you've never been in a Tesla, but this philosophy I've seen many times in the past years. Even earlier this year when I drove the Volvo EX30, and of course I remember a few years ago when I drove the Cupra Born. So it's nothing new, but it definitely feels very different. It's hard to explain. Nice grippy phone inductive charging pads over here. A very cavernous, huge storage cubby with a 12-volt power socket. A couple beverage holders, which have some kind of grippers here, so you should be able to fit different cup sizes. And lastly, under this padded armrest, you have even more storage and a USB-C. All right, this is a new 16-inch touchscreen, and I really mean new. So, oh yeah, let's take that plastic cover off and see it in all its glory. There's a really nice resolution. It's actually more pixel dense than before. And another key aspect, of course, of the performance version is the different dynamic capabilities. So you have insane acceleration mode, the standard one pedal, and the chill. But a couple new things are, for example, the ride and handling. So you have the sport suspension mode in the adaptive suspension tuning, and we'll take a look at that later on. And another interesting thing is that we have something called a stability assist. It's basically the ESC and traction control. Instead of providing a track mode, which Tesla said that they realized users aren't using this when they're on the track, what they really want is just a reduced stability control so that they can, have a little bit more fun. So you have this option here as well. And the other controls are pretty much standard. You also have full autopilot. In Europe, we don't have all of the autonomous features yet, but you have your standard systems that we're used to with regular Teslas. I got a chance to try it out yesterday, of course, with the older version, so I'm curious to see if this is a little bit better as well. Besides that, you have your seat heating, seat ventilation controls. Here in the climate menu, you have, you can even connect the climate with the seat heating. So you can also, for example, have that it's automatically controlled if you're trying to warm up the car, everything, the seat and the steering wheel gets warm, or if you're trying to cool down, then the ventilators turn on along with the AC. And it's really nice that you can control the air conditioning like this. This is pretty fun, you can even split the air currents like that. Let's take a look at the back seat. Now the door doesn't really open all that wide, but thankfully this opening itself is fairly large. So yeah, I think it should be okay to put your child seats in. You have 2 ISOFIX points on the outside. Being the SUV body style, you do have a taller door and a slightly higher ground clearance, so getting inside was not that bad. I'm 5'8", or about 1.7 meters, so the seat is set to my driving position. As you can see, I have plenty of knee room, I have plenty of headroom. This panoramic roof right now, at least because of the clouds outside especially, it's very reflective. I can see the interior more than I can see the outside, so it feels like I'm sitting inside a soap bubble. But these seats, while they're nice and contoured, there is no seat back pocket. At least there's a nice door pocket on the side, and at least there is a armrest with some cup holders. But what's really cool is this 8-inch touchscreen here for myself, so let's take a closer look at that. So here on this touchscreen you can control your climate, for example. You can even change where you want the different air currents. You can also turn on the seat heating, for example, and even recline the backrest like that. Pretty easy and pretty useful. Fun stuff too, like music control, and you can even watch, for example, Autogefühl on your YouTube right there. And you can also play some small games, so if you have kids back here, they can stay quite well entertained. Let's take a look inside the trunk. You get 2,138 liters of cargo capacity, of course, from the back trunk volume as well as the front. And as you can see, there's a nice parcel shelf that you can also just fold away like that. There is quite a bit of space underneath here as well. So if I were to get my ruler out, you can see that actually from down here to up here, this is already about 100 centimeters or about 39 inches. So just up till this line here, there's so much volume to store items, and this is quite deep. Right now there is the charging cable. Even this shelf can be lifted, and there's a little bit more space under there. There's some cubbies on the side, and of course you can use these switches to tumble the seats down and then also remove the parcel shelf completely out of the way. And now you have a huge flat loading area as well. Welcome to the Tesla Model Y Performance, driving here along Lake Lucerne in Switzerland. The weather has not been great, but we have a bit of sunshine, so let's make the most of it, shall we? First impressions are, again, electric means quiet. So driving here at 60 kilometers per hour, just a gentle, cruise along the beautiful mountain cliffs. It's so relaxing. Even though this is the performance, the suspension tuning now with this adaptive damping system also means that it's not harsh, it's not jittery. So it's a very composed and comfortable ride. The seats, even though they're performance seats, are also very supportive. The contour is really nice. You have, again, a lot of adjustability. The NVH has also been improved, and every new model that gets an update, I hear this from all of the developers that they always, improve the NVH. So yeah, I'm not sure how big of a difference it is. Yesterday when I was driving the previous Model Y Performance, I also felt that was quite hushed inside. This is perhaps a little bit better, but I wouldn't say noticeably a big improvement. But yeah, in this tunnel with huge trucks passing by me, there is not a lot of that low frequency booming. So overall, I do feel that it is generally a very comfortable and quiet interior. That ambient lighting also really adds to the theater and drama, which I think was lacking in the previous Model Y Performance. Visibility out the front is also really nice because of the expansive windshield, even this panoramic roof, because it cuts into my line of sight. So even if I look up, I can see, over my head, which is really nice. The windows on the side are really nice. The only drawback is the back. It's a really thin slot. It's almost like I'm peeping through somebody's post box. So it's a little bit, it's not the greatest, but of course with this one quick button, I can activate all of the cameras and I have a good 360 view in case I want to just quickly double check if I'm getting too close to the curb or things like that. Of course, this doesn't have the full autonomous enabled because of regulations, but I can quickly activate that here, and now it does lane keeping assist, traffic sign recognition, speed limit, adaptive cruise control, and this is again the tech that we see in other manufacturers, but Tesla has been honing this, and I do love this view. Of course, even just a couple weeks ago, I was driving the VW California Ocean, so check out that review, and they also have a similar view where you can see what the car sees. You can see the traffic signs, the trucks, even the cones, and so it's nice to see that you get more confidence knowing that, hey, did the car catch the speed limit change? Yes, it saw that right there. So things like that. And overall, it feels very capable of just being your daily driver. The steering is nice and direct. It's light enough. You have, of course, different weight settings that you can also choose based on your preference. So the Model Y Performance now with this new version has not lost any of its all-day, everyday, all-round capability by trying to be more performance-oriented. In fact, they've somehow, at least so far, seems like they've been able to combine both of these. So let's take it up into one of these beautiful mountain passes that we have here in Switzerland and really put the performance to the test. As we're making our way up to the mountain pass, let's take a bit of time to talk a little bit about, again, me driving a Tesla for the first time. And I think this is a great Tesla to pop my cherry with. And I've been thinking about a way to explain this because, again, it's not about that this is electric. I've driven many electric cars. It's not that this is just a touchscreen, because I've driven many electric cars with just a touchscreen. But it truly is the fact that because this is a Tesla, it is quite unique. And I've come to understand that it's a totally different approach to what a car should be. It's software first, hardware next. If I were to compare, I think I would say this is kind of like iOS to Android. And I'm an Android person, you know, and again, I'm just paraphrasing here, but Apple oftentimes is like, oh, you guys don't really ever really use this feature, so we're going to take it away, or we're going to make an assumption and pick how the setting should be for you. Well, no, I'm an Android guy. I want every little option. I want 100 settings. I want buttons in my car. I want, like, for example, I'm in a town right now. I don't want to rely on this full autopilot, and I'm missing that little speed limiter button that I have in my personal daily driver, for example, which I don't want to get a speeding ticket, but I don't want to have to continuously keep looking at the speed limit. Whereas here, there's not even a head-up display. I have to keep, you know, looking to the side. So if I had a simple button to turn on the speed limiter instead of the autopilot and then just set the speed limit, or it should, you know, recognize that automatically, and I don't have to worry about getting a speeding ticket. So simple things like this, you know, I think I want more control back in my hands, literally, and I'm happy to have the software take over, but I don't want it to not give me the option of choosing these things myself. So a little bit of a rant, but also goes to show that if you are also like me and have not owned a Tesla and you are thinking about getting a Tesla, yes, objectively, as a car, forget politics, forget everything, they are good cars, and that's not me saying it, numbers speak for themselves. But unlike switching from a Volkswagen to a Mercedes or a Toyota to a Mazda, this is really going from Android to Apple. So I think that way it does take a little bit more getting used to. And yeah, now like we're going through this beautiful little Swiss village. I like electric cars in these kind of settings because it's quiet. I don't feel like I'm disturbing the peace because I'm here to enjoy being in this beautiful setting and soaking that in. I don't want to, you know, stick out. So it's not polluting. It's quiet. Suspension is, again, not too bad in these small city cobblestone streets. It's smooth enough. It just takes a little bit of time getting used to the interface here on the touchscreen. All right, now we're on some winding mountain roads. So let's stretch the legs of the Model Y Performance. I'm going in the dynamics menu. Acceleration, insane. Ride and handling, sport. I'm going to keep the steering weight standard and the stability assist as normal because I don't want to go flying off a mountainside, and 0 to 100 in 3.5 seconds. Well, I don't have a great open stretch, but from 10, foot down, oh boy, oh yeah. That doesn't get old. And I do like that electric whine from the motors that we hear inside. Feels like I really am, punching warp drive in my spaceship. It does have that really cool sound. In the insane acceleration throttle mapping, can't really call it a throttle, it's really very, very, the sensitivity is really low. You just breathe, you whisper, you sneeze on the accelerator pedal, and it's a warp machine right away. It just jumps to the end of the road like that. Oh, I can feel my eyes getting sucked further deeper into my eye socket. But it's not a one-trick pony. It's not just going fast in a straight line. Yes, they have said they have changed the geometry of the steering and the suspension, and I can feel that it's a little bit better, but I think it's more evolutionary change. It's not revolutionary as compared to the previous gen Model Y Performance I drove yesterday, but that's fine. What I really feel is a big improvement actually is just the steering wheel grip. Yesterday I really didn't feel comfortable with the shape and the chunkiness of that steering wheel, whereas here, because of these indentations, it feels a lot more familiar to me with other sporty cars which have wheels of this kind of the shape. So it's also a small steering wheel. I do feel like it's a bit tighter, but that's the same for the previous the Tesla Y Performance I drove as well. I think it's fine. I think the size is not too bad. It's fun. It feels more flickable. And even in the sport suspension on slightly rougher roads, it still manages to keep you, from bouncing around. It's not jittery. So the suspension tuning, even with the sport mode activated, is also actually really nice. So we're really up in the clouds now. And I must say, actually, having driven this for a little bit longer, even in the insane throttle mapping mode, I'm getting more used to this one pedal throttle mapping. It's not that bad, actually. It just takes a little bit getting used to. And the steering, it's also got a nice progressive ratio for the rack, because for corners like this, I have a little bit more play to be more flexible, but now I'm going to go around a hairpin, and you'll see that I don't really need to make too many locks. And the size of the steering wheel also means that I'm not shuffling my hands too much. So overall, the Model Y Performance, I think now in this new version as compared to the older version, they have really made it stand out from the standard Model Y, and all the little small incremental changes they've made might not be night and day, but really make the Model Y Performance a holistic, performance-oriented electric SUV without really being a compromise on everyday usability. At the end of today's drive, I saw 20 kilowatt hours for 100 kilometers as a consumption. So if you're not going to be driving up a lot of mountains, 500 kilometers of range should be quite reasonable. Now let's talk about the price. The Model Y Performance is built in the Berlin factory and in Germany starts at around 64,000 euros. With some options, you're looking at around 70,000 euros. To be honest, I think that's a reasonable price. In today's market, regular ICE cars or plug-in hybrids are even more expensive. Therefore, the Model Y retains its value for money proposition, and the Performance adds that extra oomph and drama without taking away any of the everyday usability. Driving a Tesla for the first time meant that I had to recalibrate my brain to operate the infotainment system and understand that software a little bit better. I still think, though, more options should be provided in terms of buttons on the steering wheel, and I want more options in the settings itself. Let me know if you're a Tesla owner. Do you agree with me or not? Put it down in the comments below. Also, check out some of our other Tesla reviews and other electric SUV reviews as well. Thanks for watching.